Hi, this is Alex from devstories.eu. LiteLLM, the Universal LLM Gateway, Episode 1 of 24. You swap your OpenAI API key for an Anthropic one, and suddenly your entire application crashes. Every provider shapes their inputs and outputs differently, forcing you to write and maintain custom parsing logic for each new model. The Rosetta Stone of LLMs, the LiteLLM Python SDK, resolves this completely. There is a common misconception that LiteLLM competes with LangChain. It does not. LiteLLM is not an agent framework. It does not orchestrate tools, manage memory, or chain tasks together. It is simply a drop-in replacement for the OpenAI client. The LiteLLM Python SDK translates over 100 different provider APIs into the exact OpenAI chat completion format. You do not have to learn the specific nuances of the Vertex AI, Anthropic, or Hugging Face APIs. You write your code once using the OpenAI standard, and LiteLLM handles the translation layer in the background. The core of this SDK is a single unified interface called the completion function. When you use this function, you provide a model string. This string tells LiteLLM which provider to contact. You also pass standard OpenAI parameters like temperature, max tokens, and the messages list. LiteLLM maps those standard parameters to the correct fields for the target provider. Consider a scenario where you want to call Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Using the standard Anthropic SDK, you would need to structure your prompt blocks according to their specific message API requirements. With LiteLLM, you just call the completion function. You pass in the model name for Claude, you pass in your standard messages array using dictionaries with user and system roles. Finally, you provide your Anthropic API key, either as a parameter or an environment variable. Here is the key insight. The response object returned by this function is structured exactly like an OpenAI chat completion object. When you want to extract the text generated by Claude, you traverse the exact same path you would for a GPT model. You look at the choices array, you take the first item, you access the message object, you read the content property. Your application logic has no idea that Anthropic generated the text. The underlying network request was translated, sent to the provider, and the response was mapped back to the OpenAI schema before it ever reached your variables. This abstraction applies to the entire interaction. It covers errors, token usage statistics, and even streaming responses. If Anthropic returns a rate limit error, LiteLLM maps it to the standard OpenAI rate limit exception. Your existing error handling code catches it without modification. If you request a streaming response, LiteLLM yields chunks that look exactly like OpenAI streaming chunks. You can iterate through different models by simply changing the string value of the model parameter and swapping the environment variable for the API key. The rest of your Python code remains completely static. You are no longer locked into a single ecosystem just because you wrote your integration code for one specific provider. The true value of the unified completion interface is decoupling your application logic from the endless variations in model provider APIs, turning complex infrastructure changes into simple string swaps. Thanks for listening. Happy coding, everyone.